wanna do it together, and then we'll do maybe one or two word problems, and you'll have a little time to work. So as I'm looking at this, it does tell you what sections. If you ever are interested and you would like a book, just for more problems, we do have books. They're just kind of chilling over there. We don't really use them much in class. But that actually, like, I go in and take the notes out of the book and then give them to you. But if you ever want an extra resource, just let me know and you can sign one out. That's more, you're more than welcome to. So it does give you the sections in the book. We did 1 and 2 step equations. I think we did those in about like 30 seconds. But those were stuff you had seen. Then we did multi-step, variables on both sides, literal equations, solving proportions, percents, and percent change we did last week. So you should be able to solve equations. And then we had some word problems using those topics, blah, blah, blah. So it just gives you some reminders of how to solve or how to complete a word problem. So there's not a ton of room for this because I try to paper save. But it gives you some examples. So you might want to do your work on a separate sheet of paper as you're doing this. You may use a calculator, but I will not be accepting decimal answers. I do want fraction answers. I want them to be exact. So as we're looking at numbers 1 through 9, solving some equations, is there any equations that people would like to go over? Yes, sir.
12.
Number 12. We'll do 12 in a minute. We'll do the word problem in a minute. I need to do one, sorry. I get distracted and I hate going back and forth. So just focusing on the front, any on the front that people want to go over. I will do 12 in a second for you. Hey, Sophia, just right here in the chat and then just go to Google Classroom and all set. Thank you. You're all set. You can sign off. Hang that up so no one else signs on. Anyone's on the front, 1 through 9. All right, I'm gonna pick ones since you guys are all such a lot of confidence. I'm gonna look at number 7. So you should be doing these along with me. Whether it's on this paper, you're kind of squishing it, or you're doing it on a separate sheet. So 1, if you ever see an equation like this, you can make any equation a proportion if worse comes to worse. Like if you had an equation like this with things on the bottom. So you can always make that over 1 and then you can do it. But in this case, I don't really need to do that. Just as a reminder, I feel like people always want to add and subtract and do all that stuff first. The first step I'm going to do here is get rid of this fraction because I don't want it. It's annoying me. So I'm going to actually multiply first, which goes against something we think about all the time. But it's just the way that those things are connected. You may have to do things in a different order. So if you see something like that, you don't really want that fraction there, get rid of that first. But then that just brings me into steps hopefully that I know. If I combine, I like the x's first. 3 minus 7, that gives me negative 4x. 12 minus 5 gives me 7. I'm going to subtract 7 and then divide by negative 4. I don't care how you write it, as long as there's a negative somewhere. It could be with in the front, top, bottom. But make sure you're leaving that as a fraction. Once again, I don't want decimal answers. And we know with some of these computer programs, you put in like one little thing different, it's gonna mark it wrong. I do always go through and check. But I will say to leave your answer as an improper fraction. So don't give it to me as 3 1/4, negative 3 1/4. Technically, I'll give you I'll give you the credit, but just for consistency's sake, I'm going to ask you to leave things as improper fractions. So just as a heads up there. Let me also look at 9. I feel like those literal equations can get to us sometimes here. So just as a reminder, when you're doing a literal equation, aka it's an equation that has a whole bunch of variables, but you're trying to isolate one of them, just find the letter that you're isolating for. I'm trying to get x by itself. Think about how it's connected. It's connected to this with multiplication. And then we have this we call the constant kind of over there by itself. We always move the constant first. Or if I kind of think about that, I think the thing that's by itself we move first. If it's positive, I'm going to subtract it. I get negative px, just don't lose that minus sign, equals abc minus dy. And then still trying to get x by itself, I'm gonna divide both sides by negative p. So you get funky little answers there. Do your best. Sometimes, once again, with the computer programs, they're kind of annoying to put those in, but that is why I always go back and check what your answer is. If something's off a little, I'll give it to you. The other ones, you have some, multi-step variables on both sides. There's a proportion on there. Just be aware or be on the lookout for things like special cases, no solution or infinitely many solutions, because those do randomly pop up. Is there anything else on the front, just regular old solving? I think you guys were good with the last thing we did too, so, okay. All right, so on the back, you said 12, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do 12. That's one where we're comparing some stuff, so we're gonna do a chart. And then we'll see if there's any other ones you'd like to go over. My main goal is, if you can do it, great, but if you can't do it, I wanna clear it up today. Because you're gonna be doing it at the end of the week. So we have Ms. DeSisto has 4 times as many magnets as Miss Eddy. Ms. Trahan has 3 less magnets than Miss Eddy. If altogether they have 63, how many do they have? I actually wrote this back in the day, and my name used to be Miss Eddy. Before I got married, must be a really old problem because I've been married for 8 years, but we'll go with it. Okay, so I'm just gonna write, we're comparing 3 people, so we got DeSisto, Eddy, Trahan. So when you see you're comparing a few things, the chart is the way to go. It helps you to do that. So DeSisto has 4 times as Eddy. So Eddy is X, DeSisto is 4 times that, or 4X. Trahan has 3 less than Eddy. So Trahan, if Eddy's X, 3 less would be minus 3. Just make sure you don't do 3 minus X. And then, okay, that's filled in. All together, they have 63. So I'm just going to add all of their expressions up and set it equal to 63. That is going to set up a nice equation for me. I can combine like terms, 6x minus 3 equals 63. So 6x is going to equal 66, so x is going to equal 11. So then your final answer you fill back in. X is 11. So that was Eddy. DeSisto is 44. And Trahan would be 8. That would be your final answer. So in Edulastic, I might ask for one of those. I might just say like, how many did Trahan have? Or I might ask for all 3, so just read the problem. I'll try to make like inputting a little easier so you know if you're right X. Are there any other word problems people would like to go over? So everyone's okay with the consecutive number ones? There's one with some fractions, one where you're just buying a few things, one where you're comparing stuff. You'll have a few minutes to work on these too, so if something pops up in a few, you can always ask. But let's just look at the bottom quick, because I just want to remind ourselves. Last week we had been doing this Tuesday, I think. We were talking about percent equations. We were talking about the interest formula, and then we were talking about percent change. So just make sure, once again, you're at home, you can use your notes. There's nothing, I'm not going to tell you you can't. That's kind of impossible. So feel free to kind of look back if you forget something. For numbers 15 and 16, I like to use is, of, and what. So we talked about those last week. Is equals, of is multiplication, what is a variable. That's not an equation I can solve. Some people like the proportion way. Go for it, you're gonna get the same answer. I equals PRT is you're just labeling what you have and plugging in to find what you don't have. And then for 18, 19% change, you find the difference and divide by the original. Yes, ma'am.
Can you go over 17, please?
Absolutely. So 17, when we're using that formula, I'll give it to you. You don't need to memorize it. Once again, you can use your notes as well. So the equation is I equals PRT. And that's interest equals principal, which is how much you put in, rate, and time. So as I'm reading, I'm just gonna throw in what I know. You invest $1,200. Please don't put it for I means interest. If I invest, that's how much I put in. So that's 1,200. In an account, it earns 3% interest, so that's my rate. Your rate is always your percentage. And percentages, you're always going to write as a decimal, so move your decimal to the left. For 5 years. So my time is 5. How much did you earn in interest? So that's where my I is. So literally to solve this, I just multiply those things together. So I would just grab a calculator. 1,200 times 0.03 times 5, you're just kind of plug it in, and you would have gotten $180 in interest. Better than nothing. So it depends on what bank account you're putting it into, but that's just the money that you earn for letting it sit in that bank account for a little bit. So the big thing about that is it's just labeling what you know. Any other ones that people see that you would like to go over as of right now? Okay, so it's one of those things, I feel like people keep saying like, I need to practice more. So I'm gonna give you the next, I don't know, 15, 20-ish minutes, just to try some. So you're going through, you're trying them. Do I know what I'm doing? If you get to one, you're like, we definitely wanna go over that. I'm just gonna be updating, I need to update my answer key, so I wanna update that so I can get it to you. I'll scan that into Google Classroom today. So between now and Thursday, you can say like, oh, I need to go back and check those answers, did I do them right? Because you can still ask me questions. If you need to email it to me, I can always send you like a quick little video back how to do it, or I'll try to explain it my best. But you still have plenty of time to do that. So then on Thursday, when I say, or when you wake up and it's, pops up that you have a little edge elastic thing, you feel prepared. Does anyone think that they have any other questions or concerns right now before you start to kind of try a few on your own? Okay, so I'm just gonna give you a little bit of time, you're just trying a few. Like if you know, like word problems are like your arch nemesis, just do them first. Just get them over with and just make sure like, okay, I'm not gonna try to kill you with word problems. Could you do those? If you can do those, you'll be fine on the assessment. If you can't, ask a question today. I will be happy to help. So I'm just gonna give you a little bit of time. Always feel free to call me over or I can help you from afar. All right, so I'm gonna put my screen down. Your main goal is the ones that you've done, you're checking to see if they are correct. If it's not correct, you are asking a question. If it is correct, you know you're on the right track here, so that's kind of nice. But the big thing people said was they wanted a little more practice time in class, just to make sure before you left you felt good. You don't want me to just kind of hand this to you and say, see you later. So front was just some solving equations. We had done one or two of them together, but can you check those other ones and see, are your answers agreeing with them? Do you get something different? If you say, hey, can you go over this one? I will go over it. So I'll give you a second to check. Are there any for numbers 1 through 9 that people would like to go over? Okay, so over the last few little things you've done, you guys seem to be pretty okay with solving equations. I'm sure I did that thing. I need to remind myself for a second, but just make sure you're okay with those. So on the back, we had some word problems. Number 10. We're spending, parts of our money on different things, some on myself, some on gifts. So I set up an equation first. So this is kind of the things that I will ask you. So if you have something like this, I might say, what is your variable? And you would say, my variable is the money I brought. I don't know. I would say maybe, what is your equation? You would write your equation. In this case, it's 1/4 x, because 1/4 of my money was on myself, And I spent 2/3 on gifts, so 2/3 X equals 60/50. And then I might ask you the final end question, how much money did you bring? And it would have been $66. Yep.
For number 11, I got 11, 12, and 13. Yeah, so that's
What the heck was I doing? Okay, I did something wrong. You're right. I had an old one and I was just trying to copy it. It was probably a different number. So I will fix that. Thank you. So I messed up this one. So yeah, because that would be 3x plus 3 equals 36. Yeah, that, I don't know where I got 27 from. So I was probably just looking at the wrong problem. I will fix that and rescan it. Thank you for letting me know. But it was, what was it, 11, 12, 13?
Yeah.
Beautiful. So it should be 11, 12, 13 for that one. We had done 12 together. Number 13 is just kind of setting it up. Once again, don't feel like you have to, for word problems, decimals are perfectly fine. So I just had 0.99x, because x was the number of songs, plus 9.99 equal 2385, and your x should have come out to 14. I was like, I obviously made this like way long ago, one, because that was my maiden name, but two, like, does anyone actually buy individual songs anymore? I don't know. Maybe they'll buy CDs, probably not. But I think we had actually done number 14 on the previous worksheet. I was just trying to kind of find one of each type. So we talked about X was number of days. For a daily pass, it was 67 per day plus 25 to rent the skis per day. And for the season pass, it would be 350 plus 25 per day for the skis as well. It came out to about 5.2. But it asks how many days would the skier have to go in order to make the season pass less expensive. That would be 6 days. You can't buy a 5.2 day pass. 5 days wouldn't quite be enough for them to make it worth their while, but 6 would make them over the edge. And then obviously decimals are fine for percent stuff. You can see I set up a percent equation. If you like proportions, go for it. So that's 0.32 times W or whatever equals 15. So my W came out to 46.875. Make sure on 16 you are finding a percent. So that's why I underline it. When you get your answer, you need to convert it to a percent. 17 we had done. 18 and 19, just be careful calculator-wise. Don't put that whole thing in your calculator because it will divide before it subtracts. So I do the subtraction and then the division. But you are always finding the difference in your values and then dividing by the original. The original is just the first one given. So same thing here. And you're saying increase or decrease depending on your numbers. From 32 to 15 I decreased, but from 23 to 112 I increased. It is perfectly fine to get an over 100% increase or decrease, so just as a heads up, if that freaks people out sometimes. So that is the deal.
Can you flip it to the other side?
Other side. Um,
8 be -5 though?
I don't know, it'd be -5. Once again, I was kind of rushing. Okay, let me do it up, because I have no clue. I'll do it up here. So what's it, 3, I'm just gonna do my steps as I'm doing it, so it would be minus 32 plus 24x equals 91. I need a cat, I can't do this in my head, to be honest, my
Should
brain's.
be -24.
No, because it's a negative and the negative would be a positive. You're distributing -8.
Okay,
So when you distributed -8 times that negative there will give you positive 24.
okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that might be where your signs are. Because 3 minus a 32 gives you -29 plus 24x equals 91. So then yeah, you'd add 29.
Okay.
What was the F, what did I just do wrong?
It's 91. You did not.
Oh, that might, I knew I was off by okay, that makes more sense, 120. Okay. I'm losing my mind today. So that's where I get the 5 from, but yeah, it should be positive. And once again, that's one of the biggest mistakes I see just in general. When you're distributing, you're rushing. Make sure if there's a negative, and then you distribute to a negative, that's turned positive. Is there anything else from that worksheet? So basically if I made that for a review, there's a pretty good chance you're gonna see problems like that on the exam. So are there any questions from that or just from anything else that we've done that people would like to clear up? Okay. Give me 1 second here. Oh, my.